Hello, hello, everyone. We will get started in 1 and 2 minutes. We'll get started really soon. Just waiting for a couple more people to log on. So in the meantime, I'm going to play a little bit of music for you. And if you want to try typing in the chat, introducing yourself and where you're zooming in from, that would be great. And we will get started in one more minute, officially starting 1 minute. So if you just want to go ahead and type in the chat, no worries. I have some engagement, but it's okay because I will also just offer some questions for you to consider. You just watch me wiggle. All right, one more minute. Let a couple more people log in. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. So, hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Sullivan, and I'm so excited for you to be joining me today and for this series of learning, thought leadership and learning in our Northeast Learning Collaborative. So in today's session, we are going to focus on mastery learning and how Khan Academy and Kamigo actually support mastery learning. But I really have an important question. Just curious, how are you feeling today on a scale of my dog, Luna? And whatever you say is correct. For me personally, I'm a little tired. So I'm feeling like internally a 4, but I'm definitely a 5 to be here today presenting. Oh my gosh, Jason, thank you for being the change you want to see in the chat. This is this is how you're feeling. Um, Great. Well, nice to meet all of you. A little bit of introduction on me. So, my name is Danielle Sullivan. I actually grew up in upstate New York. I am from Oswego, New York, and I went to college in New York. I worked in politics in New York State. Then I moved to DC, worked on Capitol Hill, and then I became a teacher. So, I taught for 10 years, both in Washington, DC and upstate New York. In that time, I was also in an improv troupe. So, yes, I do say some wackadoodle things. That's a technical term. And then I've been in the ed tech space for the last 15 years and with Khan Academy for the last year. So, I'm really excited today to share with you about mastery learning. And here's our agenda for our time together. First, I'm going to start with a little bit quick history recap of education for the last 25 years. Then we're going to dig into the science of learning, then a deep dive into mastery learning, and then how does Khan Academy and Kamigo fit into all of that? You can absolutely ask questions in the chat, but let's get started. So, who remembers 2000? Oh my goodness, in 2000, I was graduating from college. So we're going to talk about the last 25 years and what has been happening in education. And it's fun. I used AI to actually create some of these images. As you can see, it is not 100% accurate. So first, in 2000 to 2010, so the first 10 years we're going to talk about is called the era of accountability. That is when No Child Left Behind was signed into law. Who remembers No Child Left Behind? I was actually working in the federal government when No Child Left Behind was being enacted. So, what happened in these 10 years from 2000 to 2010? Well, in the era of accountability, you might remember No Child Left Behind moved schools to prioritizing high stakes testing and accountability. It also shifted funds for schools from the federal government to testing. Tests started, high stakes tests were the results were then tied to teacher performance, and then all instructional shifts and strategies started to move towards supporting students to do well on the test. Does that ring true for anyone? Rings true, definitely for me. So then we move from that in 2010 to 2020, the era of flexibility and innovation. So that was the first 10 years, the testing years from No Child Left Behind. Then we move into more flexibility and innovation. In this chunk of time, the Common Core standards were adopted. Who remembers the Common Core? The first adoption of the Common Core. Now we have state standards in pretty much all 50 states. We also flipped classroom became a huge innovative strategy. Saul wrote his first book, The One World Schoolhouse, and we'll talk about some of that educational philosophy today. And ed tech and technology and personalized instruction started booming. Also, in 2015, the Obama administration took No Child Left Behind, and then it turned into the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, which is why, in education, we love a good acronym. And you might also remember it being called Race to the Top. So they were giving money and incentives for different states to be able to show academic performance. And it was the ed tech boom. From 2010 to 2020, we had all of these learning management systems, digital universal screeners, assessments. Khan Academy was created. So there was a really big ed tech boom in those years. And then in 2018, the New Teacher Project, TNTP, came out with some revolutionary, but not so revolutionary research, which has been combed over and talked about many times since then. But in 2018, which nobody remembers, does anyone remember 2020 either? Like 1820 or 19? Everyone remembers 2020. But the opportunity myth, it's worth revisiting and sharing some of their findings. Basically, what they were pointing out is that students were bored in school because they were not getting opportunities for grade level practice and grade level work. They want to be deeply engaged with what they're learning. Strong instruction needs to shift where students are doing most of the thinking, not teachers doing most of the teaching. And high expectations have a huge impact on student learning. So then we also enter the era of teacher burnout. So y'all, this is pre-COVID. So there's a lot of research that's starting to emerge in 2017, 18, 19 that teachers overall were feeling very stressed and burned out. And I like to talk about this in humor. The owl, the teacher at the beginning of the school year, end of the school year, and just feeling like your entire classroom's on fire. So then we have, y'all remember, this is not too recent, the pandemic era, where everyone in education overnight switched the way they were doing things, focused on virtual teaching, virtual learning, and it was hard, very hard. In fact, these are some of the memes that were happening when you feel like a first year teacher again, but Harry Wong has nothing about teaching during a pandemic. Ed Week came out with this. They were asking teachers in 2022 a list of words they wish they would never talk about again. Just take a minute and look at this list. Rigor, grit, pivot, self-care, fidelity, learning loss, unpack. I mean, how many of you worked and said some of these things in the last, from 2020 to 2022? But then the impact of that has been very, very drastic. I mean, I would say we weren't doing really great beforehand. Like it started with No Child Left Behind, focusing on standardized testing. And then they tried to bounce back with Race to the Top, but then COVID really took a deep dive into learning. This is eighth grade math achievement before and after with COVID. This is new statistics. Look at the dip in student math scores. And this is like, they weren't even proficient. Like we were just okay with like 40% math proficiency as a country. This is again, math, reading, science, starting in 2000 and where we are today. And then I have to say this because we're on a Zoom, but Zoom, the mute, not on mute, that's still happening today. We're on a Zoom webinar, things like that. It changed a lot of things. It changed the way that we do professional learning, the way we do meetings, more webinars popped up. Like it was a very interesting mix. Just for humor, who remembers the lawyer who turned himself into a cat and he kept saying, I'm not a cat. I'm not a cat. How did I get to become a cat? This was hilarious. Then we're in the most recent 2 years. Return to normal. education culture wars, and the AI explosion that we are currently experiencing. And this was literally clipped from today's news this morning. Screens have taken over classrooms. Have students had enough? And that's from the Wall Street Journal. So here we are. Take a minute, take it all in. Do you have any thoughts or reactions from what I just shared for the last 25 years in education of how we are, where we are today, and what we need to do to move forward? Or what stood out to you? So I'm just going to give you a couple seconds. Think time. If anyone wants to share in the chat, that's great. Or just think to yourself, what are your thoughts and reactions to what I just shared? So for me, I'm finding it's helpful to look back, to know where we've come from, to see where we are today, and to know what cuts through all of this. So 25 years is a long time, but not a long time. In my lifetime, 25 years has been the entire time I've been in politics and education. And the fact that I've been in ed tech for 15 out of those 25 years, like I have seen changes from being in the federal government when they were passing Race to the Top or the ESSER law, then teaching under the adoption when New York State first adopted the Common Core and then the Next Gen standards, and then also being in ed tech for the last 15 years, seeing all the evolutions of everything. But what I want to share with you today is that although there have been many changes in education, there are some things that still stick and things that I want us to continue to go back to. And no matter what is happening today, you still have control over what's happening in your districts and your schools, mostly when we think about creating the right environments where students are learning. And you're going to keep seeing more and more AI tools pop up, just like the ed tech boom. You had an assessment pop up every 2 seconds. There are so many resources out there, but it's important for you to streamline based on your goals as a district. Now, I want us to go back and talk about learning, the act of learning. Like, think about students in classrooms learning. It is messy, it is loud, it is unpredictable, and it's extraordinarily vulnerable. We are asking kids to show up every day, admit they don't know something, make mistakes, screw up, do it again, all in front of their peers. That takes courage and the right environments to do so. So I'm going to take the next little chunk and talk about the science of learning. I'm pulling from 4 of my favorite research books. One is Zaretta Hammond's Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. Second is a playbook published by Corwin, How Learning Works. John Hattie's research on visible learning, as well as David Souza, How the Brain Learns. I think in education, we often forget to talk about or share with our educators how brains learn. And we are in the business of learning, right? Is anyone in education not in the business of learning? And notice I'm talking about learning, not teaching strategies, because the impact to change these test scores, to change the environments, to not be okay with 40% 8th grade math proficiency in this country is to shift mindsets and lean into what works. And you know what? What works is focusing on humans and how we learn. And somebody wrote in the chat, students need to build academic stamina again. Productive struggle. They need to get in the learning pit. Thank you. Yes, we're talking about all of this because I think another impact of COVID, which I did not share, is even some innovative teachers that were doing cooperative learning and really amazing flipped classrooms and really great small group instruction. What happens when you're doing virtual learning for a year and a half? You go back to talking at kids. And then you come back, and now students have more emotional needs, more social needs, more academic needs, but you're still the same teacher. So, how do we shift to meet the needs? So, what I'm going to do is share some rules about brain science and learning. This should not surprise you, but we're going to take this and then I'm going to show you in a little bit how we are applying these in Khan Academy. So number 1, the brain seeks to minimize social threats and maximize opportunities to connect with others. Our brains want to be social and happy. That is a human experience, y'all. This is not just for 12-year-olds. This is adults too. All of our brains are going through life. All of us as humans are going and scanning our surroundings, and we're looking for human connection. We are neurobiologically wired for human connection. And our brains want us to be social and happy. They want us to feel good. They don't want us to be depressed and negative all the time. The other thing, positive relationships helps keep our safety threat detection system in check. How many of you have heard of the amygdala? The fight, flight, freeze, and now there's another one, fawn. Our brains, the reptilian brain, it's our emotional response system. So when something happens to us, we either fight, flight, leave, freeze, or people please. That's the fourth one. Now, you don't always do all of them just one at a time. You're not always a freezer or always a fighter, but typically you have a default first one, and then sometimes that will happen. But when that happens and you're triggered by something and you're in that mode, you cannot logically think for at least 20 minutes. Like cortisol is pumping through your system and you cannot, it's called, amygdala being hijacked, flip the lid. You're having an emotional response to something. Like this is not a good opportunity to be able to make any type of decisions or learning. So I feel really bad for any middle school educators out there because kids are like constantly triggered. But if you have a strong relationship with someone and you built trust with someone, that keeps that in check. Your brains will be calmer and you won't be moving into that cortisol response. And I am a freezer, like I will freeze and I probably wouldn't eaten by many tigers. Like I call it statue. My friends call it statuing because that's how I react. When something happens and I don't know what to do, I literally freeze. And I used AI to create a lot of these images. Pretty cool, huh? Well, that's actually not an AI image. That's just a cat. Another brain rule. Attention drives learning. You need to know what to pay attention to. Right now, I'm dramatically pausing. So you pay attention. Our brains cannot be looking at so many things. Multitasking is actually a myth. So you need to focus on learning. So a lot of times that's classroom management for teachers, but you have to know where I should be paying attention. Culture guides how we process information. All of us have backgrounds and experiences and all sorts of things that make us human. So it's literally the lens from which we process the world, how we grew up, our beliefs, our values, our family systems, our culture. That is how we view information. All new information needs to be coupled with existing knowledge to learn. You have to activate prior knowledge in order to learn something new. That is, we have all these filing cabinets in our brains called a schema. So if you can start to relate new things and new learnings to what you already know and your schema, you will learn it deeper. And then our brains will physically grow. They're not going to grow out of our skulls, y'all. They're going to grow through challenge and they'll expand the ability to do more complex thinking and learning when we are challenged. You also might have heard the Goldilocks principle, too easy, too hard, has to be just right. But the challenge in just right depends on the student and the subject. So this is where flexibility, differentiation, all of those things come in. Woo! So pause. I want to know, what did you think about what I just shared? Is it stuff you already knew? Or how do you learn? What do you do when you don't know what to do? Or if you're trying to learn something new, what do you do? So I'll give you a second to think about it. And if you want to type in the chat, that's great. But this is called chunk and chew. So the learning strategy is I'm sharing some information, then we pause. Share some information, pause. But by attaching something, asking about you and learning, that's going to help with your schema. Okay, I love it. I ask AI. Yeah, I know. A lot of people, when I've asked this live, have said they Google something, ask their dad, watch YouTube videos. I mean, who remembers Encyclopedia Britannica? Did I just age myself? I mean, you already know when I graduated college. Yeah, I remember when I would totally go to Encyclopedia Britannica. I loved it. Um, but yeah, now AI, that's become the new Google, right? Like I found myself yesterday stressed out about something that I feel like is wrong with my dog. So I'm constantly AIing, not even Googling. But it's helpful to think, and if you're working with staff, how do you learn? Like as a human, for me, I am a huge auditory processor. I need to hear it and see it, and then I imagine it. That helps it stick. Also, when I learn something new, I try to explain it to somebody else pretty fast because that's going to help it stick in my brain. So, other research shows students will learn more, and I'm going to say humans, when they're actively engaged with the material. That's what Opportunity Myth found and countless numbers of research. Students need to actually care and be excited about what they're learning. And emotions tie into that. We are not beings that walk around the world thinking and sometimes feel. We are beings that think or feel and then sometimes think. Emotions have a huge impact on learning and vice versa, especially when it comes to solidifying learning. Students also need to be challenged. That has been shown again and again with research, and it has to be right at the edge with a little support. There's a lot of learned helplessness that has happened, especially since COVID. There's a lot of students that are just memorizing things to take tests, which is not learning. And that's not helpful for anything. And especially in the world of AI, knowledge acquisition, like all of you just said, you're using AI. Like we don't even need to know things anymore. Although I question, like we need to have discerning skills, critical thinking skills, and collaboration skills. But having just fact-based, that's not helpful in learning. So kids need to have it right at the edge, and that edge is different for every single student. But it's also important to get immediate feedback on responses to anything new. And they have to see the value and make sure that it's relevant to them. And then there's different types of learning, right? And how do we recreate this in our classrooms and our buildings? Right now, you're passively learning. You're just kind of watching me. I'm trying to get some interaction in the chat. Thank you for interacting in the chat. Um, that's like the lowest rung of learning, right? Then there's active learning where you can ask a question, you can start to engage. Maybe you're highlighting or summarizing something. Then there's constructive learning where you're generating or producing something new. And then there's the interactive piece where you're actually in dialogue, talking and discourse and discussion. That is where in mathematics, talking about the math, having mathematical discourse is so powerful. ELA and reading, having conversations both in writing and live and talking about what you read and bouncing ideas off of each other, that is where learning is going to stick the most. However, I would be remiss if I did not pause to talk through how to calm brains because any of this learning, all of the research does not matter if we don't prioritize the humans in our buildings first, meaning connection. And I love Brene Brown's research because Brene, she has put words to things that I've known and seen in education for a very long time. This definition, connection, the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Or better said, from Ted Lasso, belief that you can. Research has been shown that high expectations, if teachers believe so fiercely that kids can, they will. They will. And I love Rita Pearson. Her TED Talk is so famous. If you've never seen her TED Talk, it's worth watching. It's only like 6 or 7 minutes. Children don't learn from people they don't like. There's research on psychological safety, creating brave environments. This is not fluff. This is the foundation. But teachers are so tired, so overwhelmed. But how do we create the right environments where students know that when they walk into that classroom, they feel safe, they feel valued, they feel respected and empowered to learn? That's the critical work. but some strategies still work no matter what. For instance, are your educators, I'm talking kindergarten to high school, standing outside the door when students are coming in and just smiling and greeting them? That simple act can be the biggest differentiator between a student having a terrible day and an okay day where they're at least open to learning. There's also something called the creepy smile. It looks like this. And it's a little too creepy right there. That lady's a little creepy too. She's an AI. The other one's not an AI. Smiling. As humans, we have mirror neurons in our brains, body neurons, right? Brains, where if you see someone smiling at you, you can't help but smile. And then if you have somebody creepily smiling at you, you start to awkwardly laugh. Like I've done this in live in person. Like maybe you're laughing right now. You're like, what is she doing? Right? Like super creepy. So again, standing in front of a classroom as kids are pouring in before you start the bell work, just creepy smiling at them. They're going to be like, "What is happening?" But they'll also start to smile. And when you smile, guess what? It opens up your brains more for learning. Human connection, very simple. Smiling, say, "Good morning. Good morning, Danielle. Welcome to class." That goes a huge way. Other things that really work, asking kids about themselves, staff meeting, asking teachers about themselves. These four questions I found that connect universally no matter what. They're really good icebreaker questions. But like, what do you love to do? What's your favorite activity? What are your hopes and dreams? What frustrates you? And if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why? You can find questions on the internet. You can use AI to find questions, but this is a great icebreaker to start with connection, to start with the human element. And it doesn't have to take long. You could have a question a day over the PA system. Your morning meetings could include questions. Lots of ways to do this, but this still works. The other thing that still works, talking about joy. Joy, everybody. This was a poster that I created when I was a teacher. I led a teacher professional development. I wrote the word joy and literally just asked everybody, what brings you joy at work? What do you love to do? Why are you in education? And we all wrote on it. And then this hung in our teachers' faculty lounge the whole year. So when I needed a little extra joy jolt, I went in there and looked at the poster. Something you can do tomorrow. Teachers can do this at the beginning of the school year with students. You can do this with teachers. There's so many opportunities. It's just paper. Who remembers paper? Sticky notes? What? The other thing that works, memes. Memes are still funny. They're good icebreakers, as long as they're appropriate. I just want to make sure you understand this one. Like apparently there's now parking spaces reserved for people who twerk at barbecues. Do you get it? Is anyone laughing? Or right now, audio versus video, right? If you're like on a Zoom meeting, you have to show your face, you look really different than when you have to be on screen. Another thing that's really fun to do, especially on Zoom, so I have a little humorous story, and this is us to be vulnerable and hopefully connect. And if I saw your faces, which we'd love to know, we're going to have a bunch of contact information in a little bit. We'd love to know if you'd love to have us see each other's faces during these, if we want to keep the webinar thing. And I know that something keeps popping up and I don't know how to fix it. So we're just rolling with the Zoom flow. But there's an activity that I like to play called freeze face, because when you're doing a virtual presentation or on a virtual meeting or in a virtual space, how many times have you been frozen? How many times have you been frozen like this? Or how many times have you been frozen like this? That's me. Like you're never. So this is a funny story. This is my dad. This is during COVID when you only had two Zoom backgrounds, San Francisco or space. And he was just had eye surgery, which is why he looks like a pirate. And then he was a lawyer, so he was just attending court and he zoomed in for our like family Zoom meeting that we were having a little bit more frequently. And I'm dying laughing because I don't think my sisters got it, but he froze like this. So he literally looks like a pirate drowning in the San Francisco Bay. Like that is funny. That is huge. That's very, very funny. So if I could see your faces or what your next time you're in a Zoom meeting, you can play something called freeze face. So all you do in the count of three, everyone just makes a face like you're frozen, but not like a pretty one. Like one, two, three. That's it. It's called freeze face. The other thing that still works is showing pictures of baby animals as a quick connection. So these are goats in jail. You could actually have baby animals during your faculty meeting, just not reference them. All baby animals work. For math teachers, before you teach a math lesson, if you show cute little baby animals, kids are gonna be like, oh my goodness. And then they start to open up to learning. These tricks still work in creating the human connection of learning environments. Because what I don't want us to do as we're talking about learning and mastery learning is yes, we do growth mindset. Yes, we totally value mistakes. And you have posters, like all of these best practices turn into posters and die on the wall. So you walk into a classroom that has like mindset is everything and the kids look like this. Or even more challenging, you're in classrooms and it's very crowded and it's hard to really get to all the students and it's hard to do everything to versus this beautiful AI creation. Oh, did you notice that lady has a pig nose? That's fun. So having an AI creation of a magical classroom where everyone's included and everyone feels valued. So how do we create the right learning environments? I just gave you some high level ideas, greeting kids and you as a leader walking through the hallway smiling, creepy smile, funny memes, freeze face, questions, asking people what they're joyful about, what brings them joy, and then baby animals. Those are just a couple really easy things you can do as a leader, as an educator. But I'd love to know what are some of the things you might do as a leader to support positive learning environments in your buildings and districts? And whatever you say is correct. If you don't want to type in the chat, I just want you to think, are you doing this? And if not, it is January. What can you do for the rest of the year? Maybe you just want to adopt the creepy smile. Great. Maybe you want to include music. You're going to play some fun songs before you do staff meetings. Maybe you want to start showing pictures of baby animals. That's great too. Just choose something to bring back the human element. Questions about that? Comments? How are we doing so far? You still with me? All right. So now we are going to pivot from the science of learning to talking, that's a new thing, talking about mastery learning. What is mastery learning? Again, this is something that I don't want to turn into a poster and die on the wall. This is high impact learning. So we're going to watch a quick video explaining the high level of what mastery learning is. Make sure you can hear the sound.
Have you ever really tried to learn something and you just couldn't? It can make you feel like you're not so smart, right? Well, it's not your fault, and it's not your teacher's fault. It's just our traditional approach to learning. We go through school and we accumulate gaps. You're a bit shaky on pre-algebra, but you move on to algebra anyway. By the time you get to calculus, you've got lots of gaps. If enough gaps build up, you eventually hit a wall. Calculus makes no sense, and that can be frustrating. But what if there were a different way to learn? That's mastery learning. Unlike traditional learning, where all students move in lockstep, with mastery learning, you go at your own pace. You progress through questions at just the right level for you. If you get 50% right the first time, it's not a big deal. Try as many times as you need. Get feedback as you learn, and help when you need it. Teachers can track your progress, identify any gaps, and give you one-on-one attention. Decades of research shows mastery learning works. Now you have the tools to make it possible. Are you ready to learn anything?
Great. So from that video, how many of you think back to you as a student? How many of you felt like you were just being shoved along? Or if you're a teacher or were a teacher, how many of you felt like you were just shoving your kids through the grades and not actually taking time to learn something? That's how I felt again and again. And I was a special education teacher. So I was a fifth and sixth grade special ed teacher for 10 years. And I feel like I did a great job connecting with my students, but getting them to deeply learn something, I did not have the right tools, resources, or research, which I do now. And earlier in the chat, one of you shared, Michelle shared, building academic stamina, productive struggle, and she talked about the learning pit, which is what I'm showing you. This is by James Nottingham. I love this image because mastery learning sounds amazing, but it does require grit. It requires students to push through. It requires purpose. It requires making mistakes and trying again. True growth mindset, not just the watered down poster version of growth mindset. If you actually read Carol Dweck's research, Angela Duckworth, who wrote the book Grit, which by the way, you need a lot of grit to get through. If you read it, you get that joke. It takes you to push through. Unfortunately, many students, especially after COVID, are looking for the easy button. Many teachers are also looking for the easy button. You remember that Staples when they have that like big easy button? It doesn't exist. No, it doesn't. Not when it comes to learning. It requires all of those things. So this pit, a lot of times, I think I know it. It's not as easy, but I'm confused. A lot of kids never get out of the learning pit and then they shut down and then that's it. They give up, especially with math. So many students have developed math anxiety, math trauma. It's a real thing, math trauma. And so many adults have math trauma because of this, because they felt like they couldn't do it and they're stuck in the pit forever. So, our critical role in education in this moment in time is how to teach each other how to get out of the pit. I'm talking adults, I'm talking students, I'm talking families. Every one of us needs to figure this out. And this, folks, is human experience. AI cannot do this for you. It can help. It can be a great tool, which I'll show you how we're thinking through that. But there is no easy button. This is the critical work. And if we can master this, we will start producing generations of students who have deep learning and solid foundations with math and ELA. Aviv just put in the chat, we have a little Mastery Learning refresher ebook free for you with those resources and Mastery Learning. How are we thinking through all of it? And in the ebook, we talk about grit, perseverance, and it's a little more research and videos for you around Mastery Learning. So now I'm going to show you how all of this comes together. We talked about the history of education and why we are where we are. We talked about the science of learning, how we literally learn things as humans, and then why it's important to do mastery learning. So now I'm going to dig into the resources and show you what we mean by this and how Khan Academy is designed to help you do that. Yes, the clip that you just watched is in the ebook, 100%. That video is linked in there. So Khan Academy, us at Khan Academy, how do we support mastery learning? How do we support filling in those skill gaps in the beginning, not when you're like trying to take AP Calc and you never understood certain aspects of math in fifth grade? How are we trying to solve that problem? So at Khan Academy, just FYI, we are a nonprofit and our mission is to provide a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. So the resources, most of what I'm going to show you today is free. Khan Academy will always be free. Our mastery learning system is free. And our teacher AI tools are free, but we do have a district partnership for the student-facing tool Khanmigo, which I'm going to demo a little bit today too. But we are different as a company because learning, what I'm talking about today, it is our North Star. We want to make sure students are experiencing grade level success and we're closing those gaps. Like after COVID, it's so depressing. I remember when NAEP came out, that's the National Assessment Scores, showing like the dip in math. And I was like, and the headlines were, we just erased 20 years of teaching. How depressing is that, y'all, right? Like you're like, great, cool, my entire life, my entire adult education life just got erased. It's all in the way we frame things. It's not erased. There's ways to do things. And today is a new day. Every day is a new day. Even if your teachers don't know how to do some of this yet, tomorrow's a new day. That's what's great about education. And there's a new year. in September, right? Or August, whenever your school year starts. But we want to make sure students have the ability to experience grade level success. And how do we do that is through a mastery learning system. But it takes all those other building blocks. You can't just use Khan Academy and magically everything happens. There is no easy button, y'all. It takes the educators believing that kids can. It takes strong leadership. And then it takes the right systems and structures in your building. Khan Academy is designed to help be flexible and getting to those goals, but it takes all of this. And this is what will always work. It worked in 2000, it will work in 2030. It's the human part of teaching and learning. So I would love for you to take a minute and listen to our CEO and founder, Sal Khan, talk about his perspective on mastery learning. We have this really great newsletter that you can subscribe to that it happens monthly. I think Aviv monthly. But if you want to subscribe, this is from our newsletter that just came out. So we highlight different districts, we highlight little thoughts and pieces from Saul. So I want you to take a minute and listen to Saul talk about mastery learning. Hopefully. Let's back him up. And
Hi, district leaders. Sal here from Khan Academy. And, for my update video, I wanted to talk about something that I think is a very hard issue for a lot of educators, a lot of school districts. And I think we finally have a solution for it, we as a society, where if you go into most classrooms, and we could pick any subject, but I'll pick math because that's sometimes the most easy to visualize. Before the pandemic, you often had 3 grade levels of ability within the same classroom. And after the pandemic, I've seen reports of as much as 6 grade levels of ability. What I mean is, let's say it's a 9th grade algebra class. There could be some students who are well ready for that algebra class, or they might even be ready to accelerate into geometry or algebra 2. But there's other students who really are struggling with pre-algebra, or even in certain cases, arithmetic, or even before that. And as you can imagine, this has always been a very, very hard task for an individual teacher. Who do they cater to? Oftentimes you hear about teaching to the middle. There's some research studies that I wrote about in my first book a long time ago that teachers teach to the 23rd percentile, which means about a quarter of the class is lost, about 3/4 of the class is actually maybe a little bit bored. And it might switch over the course of a class. And especially after the pandemic, when so many students fall behind, and those are the students that we often worry the most about, sometimes the temptation is like, well, maybe we just slow everyone down. But when you slow everyone down, you're also hurting those students that are ready for more and stimulating them and making sure they stay engaged. And so, the thing that I want to talk about is just the importance of being able to meet everyone's needs without lowering standards, because I think that's what unfortunately oftentimes happens. And that would have been very hard to do if we were talking 20, 30 years ago. But this is where I think technology is interesting. I'm a big believer that, you should never use technology for technology's sake. Everyone's talking about AI these days, including us, but it should never be technology for technology's sake, AI for AI's sake. It should be, what are the problems that you're actually trying to solve? And this is a very core problem in education. How do you have a wide variation of students and meet them all where they are? And to us at Khan Academy, the idea of mastery learning, which we've been we didn't come up with the idea for mastery learning. I'd argue it's one of the oldest ways of learning, but we've definitely been supporters and believers in trying to figure out ways to leverage technology to implement it. And all mastery learning is, and it kind of goes with personalized learning or competency-based learning as well, is this idea that if there's a student who needs some gap filling, has some unfinished learning from a year ago or 2 years ago, are there ways to quickly fill that in and then bring them to grade level as quickly as possible? And then if there are students who are ready to move ahead, how do you support them as well? And they can even be in that same classroom. And the real magic of this is you don't have to separate students by ability level then. You can actually get the benefit of having students at multiple ability levels in the same classroom. You can actually embrace that. We've seen models where teachers are able to use Khan Academy, look at the reports, and then suggest that some of the kids who are a little ahead become almost like teaching assistants, and then they can support some of their peers who might be struggling with some concepts. So this is a super important idea for us. And the key is not just how do you dwell on whatever gap filling that needs to happen for those students who might have fallen behind, but also how do you get them up to speed, up to grade level or beyond as quickly as possible. And this is a lot of what we've been trying to do for years at Khan Academy. And now using AI, we think the opportunity is that much larger. And actually, we have some projects in the works right now that we think are going to get even better, where we can recommend things to teachers, or we could even drive some mini interventions leveraging AI with students to bring them up to grade level as quickly as possible without ignoring that gap. Because if you just keep ignoring that gap, that's not a good thing either, because then students just get pushed ahead, those gaps accumulate, and we see where it ends up. In the US, a majority of kids who enroll in community colleges and even a large number of students at four-year colleges, and these are kids who graduate from high school and go to college, they end up having to take remedial math. They end up not passing a writing requirement. If we go into other subjects, remedial math is a euphemism for seventh grade math, pre-algebra. So even though students take classes like Algebra 1 and geometry, because they're not mastering concepts, those gaps accumulate, they go to college, and it's really the first time that mastery learning is put into effect, where they're saying, hey, you're not even ready to learn algebra yet. We're going to take you all the way back. And that's not helping anyone. We want to do those interventions sooner, but in order to make that tractable for a teacher or for a district, as far as we know, unless you can, have 30 teachers in a classroom, we have to support teachers better with technology. Artificial intelligence is now part of it. Teacher tools, teacher reporting are part of it. So I'll leave you there. There's other things to talk about. But, there's this goes into another high level theme, is in this moment where everyone is talking about artificial intelligence and technology, it's very important to think about why you are using, what problems you're trying to solve, and then think about the simplest ways of doing it, as opposed to the other way around. I sometimes worry too many people are like, oh, I'm going to use AI, and then just figure out, how do I use AI? But the way that AI works is actually when it's in support of a whole a mechanism. And even on Khan Academy, we think a lot of the learning gains happen. Yes, the AI can hopefully unblock folks and drive engagement and support teachers, but it's that core practice loop that we've always had on Khan Academy that has 50 plus efficacy studies that show that mastery learning works. And that's the thing that we hope to partner with many of you all on, to really move the dial. Because as a nonprofit, our mission is really the same as yours. That let's try to move academic outcomes in the right direction.
Okay, thoughts, questions, comments on what you just heard Saul say? I'll give you a second to react in the chat if you would like. Just do like 15-second independent think time. Let that kind of resonate with you. Here's a couple things I want to make sure that you heard Saul say. In my travels, actually, I'd say for the last 15 years, talking with school districts, and now in the last 2 to 3 years, I know I talked about the easy button, but districts are overwhelmed in decisions. There's so many tools out there. Technology has exploded, even from the ed tech boom to now. There's so many teacher burnout. I showed you funny things about it, but it's actually worse since COVID. Teacher retention is a huge issue, high quality teachers, and just educational, just knowing what's right and what's best for the students in front of you. And like Saul said, there's 5 different layers or levels now. But things that have been issues, there are still teachers teaching to the middle. There's still teachers sage on the stage. There's still teachers who are just sharing content with students and hoping and praying that they get it. If you want to be different, if you want to move the needle for your students, it is important to know what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, and then choose solutions and technology that works with your goals. I'm going to show you how we're thinking about some things at Khan Academy with the mastery learning, but this is a shift. It's a shift for a lot of teachers. It's a shift for a lot of leaders. It's a shift for a lot of districts, but this is what will move the needle. And we care about learning at Khan Academy. We are not just hawking the latest AI solution. We built the tools to work alongside what works are the Khan Academy courses. And then we also prompt engineered the tools to just support learning in general. Because I went to FETC 2 weeks ago, the Future of Education Technology Conference, and I can tell you, I walked down that giant expo hall and saw so many tools that are flashy with little substance, or tools that are reinforcing what's not quite working in education, which is giving kids below grade level work, below grade level text, worksheet, worksheet, worksheet. That's not what this is designed to do. And I think that if you're spending this time with me, that you do care about learning and you do care about moving the needle. And I love that Michelle just chatted. I heard Saul and TED Talk describe mastery learning in a nutshell. What is variable is when and how long students have to work on something. What's fixed is that students have actually learned it. Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely. So I'm going to show you real quick in the last little bit together what this looks like. How are we thinking through this at Khan Academy? So, and Sal alluded to this, we will be moving into a really cool direction in the next 10 to 12 months at Khan Academy, where we're going to even transform what you're seeing on the screen to drive more learning outcomes for teachers and students and making it even easier and using AI to kind of share and give suggestions for differentiation, support, all of that. But this is what it looks like today. And you can sign up for a free Khan Academy account today. Aviva is going to post in the chat. You can have all of the teacher tools for free and use all of our Mastery Learning System for free. If you are interested in a district partnership, that's what rolls up. You can see the data as a district. It's the only way to get the student-facing Socratic Tutor Conmigo. I'm going to show you a little bit of how that works today, but that's not our main focus. The main focus of today is the thought leadership, giving you some things to think about of how to move the needle with learning. So first and foremost, we have a lot of courses. We are not just a science and math solution, y'all. We have new ELA courses. We even have new financial literacy courses. We have a new climate project, digital SAT. There's so much more to Khan Academy if you haven't seen it lately. We're adding new high school biology, chemistry. We even have a course of how to use the AI for students and for teachers. So the way these courses work, I'm going to click on sixth grade. And a lot of our content is aligned to actually state standards too. Other content is aligned to the Common Core standards. But these right here, this is Mastery Learning System. What this means is there are different units in sixth grade math, but students need to show what they know, and they want to move from not even having exposed to the skill into mastering of a skill. So the way you can start is students can take a course challenge. So this is about 30 to 45 minutes, around 30 questions across the course. And then what will happen is once students take this and they log in, they're going to start to see some skills they already know, skills they have yet to work on. Then they can really work through independently and start to learn and acquire these skills. Now, it is designed, there's quizzes after each unit, there's unit mastery quizzes, there's there's a quiz right here to level up on those skills. Then there's another quiz, and then there's an end of a unit quiz, unit test, all of that exists to move students towards understanding it. But the point of this system is skills. I'm not saying shove every kid through sixth grade, even if they don't learn something. You go from watching a video, right? You can watch videos a couple times, then there's an exercise showing what you know. There is some suggestions, right? Like we have some things built in, like right here, I'm not quite yet, I didn't get that right. So what do I do? If you get it right, we have some like rewards, like, woohoo, good job. But this is the Mastery Learning System that Khan Academy, like Sal said, there's over 30 studies of the how this works. And to solve for some of the things I shared, yes, we are still in a high stakes testing world. I don't know if ever we'll get out of that, especially in public education. And there has been a lot of learning gaps. But Khan Academy is very flexible because even if I have something that I'm teaching for math, whatever core your district selects, you can still use Khan Academy as a supplement. You can use it as a precursor, like a pre-teaching, post-teaching, homework, study hall, after-school program. There's so many ways that you can use Khan Academy. But this is what we talk about with the AI support, because if I'm in this mastery learning system, and I've assigned this to students and I'm working through part to part whole ratios and I am stuck. I don't know what I'm doing, or I need support in the moment. And remember, we talked about learning being students need immediate feedback. They need to make it just the right level for them. They also need to make sure it's relevant. That's why we built Conmigo, our student-facing Socratic tutor. It does all of those things because in that crowded class that I showed you, sometimes it's really hard to get that personalized approach for students in the moment. And as a special ed teacher, sometimes students need additional support additional prompting. And also, students need acceleration. They need to be able to learn or be pushed too. So think of Conmigo as your on-demand differentiator, where it has text to speech, speech to text. We will log the chat for data. But students who are working through this can say, first off, a lot of kids that I worked with, why do I even care? Why do I need to know part to part whole ratios? We built another layer of AI math to minimize math mistakes. But Conmigo will say, you need to know it because of this, but what do you think about this? When we say Socratic tutor, that's another buzzword that people, I think, they don't understand mastery learning. They don't understand what it means to be a Socratic tutor. This is what a Socratic tutor is. How do you think this might be useful in everyday life? Remember, I talked about brain rules, activating prior knowledge, engaging students in thinking and sharing what they think will help them learn anything faster. And then one more thing I'll show you is you can personalize this. So you can say, explain this to me in terms of music, because I love music. I may not jive with math, but actually, I love music and I'm a super mathematical thinker, but I don't know that because I have math anxiety. But if I have Conmigo help me understand things in terms of music, maybe it'll click a little bit more. That's activating my schema. Like if I can apply, if I know a ton about football or Pokemon or whatever, and I share with Conmigo what I'm interested in, that will help learning stick. So like here, music, ratios can help create harmony and balance. So I'm like, whoa, I understand harmony. I understand balance because I'm obsessed with music. So now I'm going to start to relate it to math. This is just one way we are taking our mastery learning system and layering the AI. We're not building AI just for AI's sake. So, in conclusion for today, I'd love to know we have 3 minutes left. How have you used Khan Academy? How are your teachers liking it? How do you think Conmigo might be able to help, right? Like add that layer of AI as the on-demand tutor or support, feedback, differentiator, whatever word you'd like to say. And then I want to share what next steps and what we can do. So you can go ahead and keep typing in the chat. Aviv just gave you the link to get any access to these tools for free. But here's what we talked about today. 25 years of education. Where have we come? Not very far. We have come far and then also not. Technology, we are at the moment in time right now in education. This is the moment where I believe we can really make a difference. We finally have the right tools for the right moment, but it's still going to take us to lean in as leaders, to focus on learning, to be unrelenting with creating the right environments where students feel safe and valued and seen and secure enough to try and make mistakes. We need to reteach grit, perseverance, all of it. And mastery learning can be the differentiator, and we built a system that supports that. So I'd love to know, is there anything that you want to share? What did you learn from this? Maybe your takeaways, you're going to show baby animals. That's great. I hope you learned something from today. And then thank you, Michelle sharing leveling text for learners, including multilingual learners. Yes, I didn't even get into the teacher tools. We're going to talk more about that next time. So what are your next steps? First of all, thank you for joining. We appreciate you. We actually have a Northeast Learning Collective landing page where you can see a little welcome video from me. You'll be able to see all of the links for all of these videos. Please share this with your friends to sign up. Our next series is going to be Falling in Love with Writing and Writing Coach. We'll talk about that in February. If you're interested in bringing Conmigo to your district, you can watch a video of me doing a demo. So you don't have to, so when we meet, we can just really dig into the meat of everything. So visit the Northeast Collective. Watch that demo video. If you're an immediate yes, if you're like, Danielle, this sounds amazing, I would love to work with you. We actually have a contract request form, or book a call with me to learn more. Again, This was the first session in a multi-session. We're going to be doing it monthly, the same thing, the last Tuesday of the month at noon. So it's Falling in Love. We're going to dig really into math, mindsets in March, relationship